Hi, this is Lucy, and today I'm going to be discussing modern secularism in America. The reason the Pilgrims came to America was in search of religious freedom from Great Britain, where they were oppressed. And religious freedom is still a main ideal in America today. In the Bill of Rights, in the First Amendment and the Establishment Clause, it states, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. In modern times, people confuse this freedom of religion with the absence of religion. This belief in the absence of religion is called secularism, and it's the main opponent of the Catholic Church in America today. The rise of secularism in the United States is a big problem, and the Church wants all her members to be informed and actively protesting this repression of religion. Especially in discussions today in America, secularism is often referenced, but very few people know the actual definition of secularism. It's defined as a secular spirit or tendency, especially a system of political or social philosophy that rejects all forms of religious faith and worship. Jacques Berliner Blau, author of How to Be Secular and a secularist himself, says that true secularism is strict separationism. At its core, secularism is deeply suspicious of any entanglement between government and religion. Here he tries to make secularists sound like they only disagree with the entanglement of church and state, when really they're trying to separate the church educationally, politically, socially. They're trying to separate the church from every realm of human life except for outside an actual church building. And this is what Christians disagree with. And it's not just the Catholic Church that they are trying to separate. They're trying to do away with all religions. All religions are oppressed in secularism. And this is what we're trying to combat. From the secularist book could lead one to believe that the Catholic Church does not agree with separation of church and state. However, that's not true. The Catholic Encyclopedia states the Church must respect the rights of the state to govern its subjects in all purely temporal matters, and if the subjects of the state are likewise subjects of the Church, they must hold the latter to the fulfillment of their civil duties as an obligation and conscience. In this quotation, the Church acknowledges the value of separation of church and state. However, as Catholics, we do oppose the separation of the church socially, educationally, and politically. Our God is not meant to be worshipped in a church and just on Sunday. He's meant to be proclaimed publicly and not just in our homes or in our places of worship. America has always been a place where all believers are free to proclaim their faith, and secularism insidiously erases religion from society in the name of separation of church and state. The Catholic view of secularism is often confused with her view on religious diversity. The Church is extremely tolerant of other religions. She holds no objection to public displays of worship of other churches. One can display or promote a Buddha statue, menorah, crucifix, image of Krishna, the Quran, whatever you want to, whatever religion you want to. And the Church is very tolerant of that. The Church has never objected to religious diversity, and thus she has thrived in America, which was founded on the belief that any diversity of faith should practice freely. The Catholic Church reflects what Americans hope to find in their new country, tolerance of religion. However, the Church does vehemently reject secularism, as should any other organizations that wish to freely practice their faith. Fundamentally opposes secularism because it prevents her members from accomplishing the mission that Christ mandated to us at his ascension: go forth and proclaim the gospel to all nations. Secularism rejects all forms of worship, not only in association with the state, but also throughout society. Pope Benedict XVI addressed American bishops at the Ab Limina pilgrimage to Rome, saying, "It is imperative that the entire Catholic community in the United States come to realize the grave threats to the Church's public moral witness presented by a radical secularism, which finds increasing expression in the political and cultural spheres. The seriousness of these threats needs to be clearly appreciated at every level of ecclesial life. Of particular concern are certain attempts being made to limit that most cherished of American freedoms, the freedom of religion." There are many examples of growing secularism in the United States, but one of the most prominent occurred in Seattle, Washington. A teacher and her aide, Jessica, were going to give their third grade students Easter eggs this spring. Jessica was instructed by the teacher to call the eggs spring spheres instead of Easter eggs. This was done in order to make the eggs less offensive. Now the government deems public religious displays offensive? This is one instance in which the absence of religion is favored over the freedom of religion. The problem with these spring spheres is that the religious element of the holiday is completely removed. Had the teacher given out bitter herbs on Passover, that would not be objectionable. That would be considered freedom of religion. But to prohibit a teacher from giving her students a religiously named object is separating religion from the education and from the holiday that celebrates our Lord's resurrection. Another example of modern secularism occurred in 2003 here in Montgomery, Alabama. Judge Myron Thompson ruled that the placement of the Ten Commandments monument in the rotunda of Alabama's State Judicial Building violated the U.S. Constitution principle of separation of church and state. Judge Moore, who established the monument, refused to take it down and was removed from office. The Ten Commandments commemoration was moved to a back room out of public view. Again, this is an instance of misinterpretation of the Establishment Clause in the First Amendment, whose text reads, "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof." The modern interpretation of this clause is, "Congress shall make no acknowledgement of religion or symbols of religion." This is not what the text of the Establishment Clause states. It is unethical to remove religious symbols from public property in the name of the Establishment Clause. This is not what the Founding Fathers wrote, and this is not what the Founding Fathers intended. Placing a symbol of Christianity in a legal building does not mean that the government has made a law concerning this religion, certainly within the state and local government whose representatives are elected by the popular vote of the people in the state. The symbol is, if nothing else, a reflection of the beliefs and culture of the people in the area. Just as a work of art on public property is an expression of the artist's emotions and thoughts, the Establishment Clause cannot be interpreted to mean that the government cannot recognize the existence of a religion of its people. Examples and countless others show the rise of secularism in America. The words of our Founding Fathers in the First Amendment have been distorted to fit secularist ideals and marginalize religion. Christianity is particularly affected by this attempt to destroy religion in America because of its popularity. Secularism attempts to change freedom of religion to absence of religion, thus violating the religious beliefs that our nation was founded upon. The Catholic Church, along with the Pope Emeritus, calls her members to take an active stand against this violation of freedom that is secularism. These modern difficulties are uncharted waters, but Christians can be both challenged and comforted by the words of Blessed John Paul II's first address to his people, "Be not afraid."